some sort of intro cutscene. So that's what we're gonna do in this video. Now to make our cutscene, what we're first gonna do, we're gonna use the timeline, the director, component, all that. I did make a video previously. I'll leave a link up above so you guys can check that out. So we'll just get started. We're gonna create an empty game object. We're gonna call it director, and we're gonna add a playable director component. Now this is gonna ask for this playable asset. What we could do is we could just go to window over here, go to sequencing, go to timeline. Now this window will pop up. You could dock it anywhere or just have it floating, whatever you like. And right here, I'm gonna create a new timeline. It's gonna create a director component and a timeline asset, which would be over here. So if I create, I'm gonna add a folder. I'm gonna call it timelines, and I'm just gonna put it in here. And then I'm gonna call this intro timeline, so we could kind of organize. So now we get this little scroll bar, and we could start editing our timeline pretty much. So for anything to work, so if you want to animate anything or anything like that, you would have to bring it into the director to make it a child of the director. So I'm just going to bring in the universal male because I do want to animate that and move him around and stuff like that. Now the director game object, I'm actually going to move so everything could move with it. And I'm going to kind of place them right in front of this police station. And I'm going to flip them around by -90, or I'm actually going to do just the character. Sorry about that. So just the character, I'm going to do 90 degrees. Now he's going to be looking towards that pawn shop. So if we go over here, we can see him over here. Might even move this director just a little back or to the side, and then a little back and a little up. So there you go. Now we got our character in place. Now we're going to start adding animations. So this one already has an animation, an idle animation. And the idle animation, the way you would get animations from Mixamo is you would go to animations right here. You could also get characters from Mixamo. Just be careful with the characters from Mixamo, because for example, some of the materials that you add to it might not be what you want. So for example, forgot which exact one it is, but there's one that his eyeballs are actually connected to his skin. So if you add a material to his skin, it would match his eyeballs, and vice versa. As for like this one, the boss, it's not showing right now, but the boss, his eyeballs would change, but he doesn't really have any pupils or anything like that. So just be careful with the characters you choose, because they might not be exactly what you want. Now for the animations, we're going to go to animations, and I'm going to click on idle. Now with the idle, I could actually click which one I want. And if this isn't working, you could always upload your character again. To upload your character, just go over here to your assets, go to where the mesh is of your character, and just drag him in. Drag them in. And this process might take a little bit, so just be patient. Now the process uploaded. So this is our character. Now he doesn't look like my character in the scene, because this character actually has different body parts and different clothing that I could add to it, and I'll show you that later on in a different video. But that's why he looks like this, because he has all the pieces together, all included. So now I got my character, and now if I choose idle, I could choose any idling I want. I chose this breathing idle, and I had already downloaded it, but you guys could go ahead and download it. Just change whatever you guys want. You could change the body type, sway, breathing, overdrive, all that. Some you can't change as much, so some have different settings, so just play around with that. Once you got your model, just click download, put FBX for Unity, put without skin, and just download. You'll get your download when it's ready, and just drag it into any folder you want. I added an animations folder right here, and I have this breathing idle right here, and I could play it, and it shows his breathing idle. Or I could even drag in my player, and when I drag in my player, I could actually see it on my player as well. So with that being said, once you do have it in here, you would want to go to your rig, set your animation type to humanoid, and you could either create from this model, or if you already have an avatar definition, you could choose copy from another model and then choose the model you want to copy from. I'll show you that right now in a bit when we import our walking animation. So now with all that said, let's add right here our animation track, and we're going to drag in our male, our universal male. I'm actually going to rename this to player, and go back to the timeline, hit director. Now with the player there, I could move my timeline, go to my actual animation. So let's go to my actual animation and just drag it in. If that don't work, go to this triangle right here, which is the actual animation, and just drag it in. Now you see this happening right here, which is a little weird. Bring this guy back. Now with that, just go to your director, and you would actually have to move your director to where you want. I don't know why it does that. So yeah, just move your director back. If it does do the same thing as mine, just move him back to where he needs to be. Rotate him if you need. So now I'm gonna rotate the director, and I'll just move him over. And when I actually scrub my timeline, you can see he's doing his breathing idle. Now, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add our walking. So I'm gonna show you this process again. Right here, type in whatever you want. I'm gonna put walking, and I'm gonna use this walking animation. I'm gonna put in place. I'm gonna check that so he's walking in place, because we're gonna move it with the timeline. So now I'm just gonna hit download, FBX for Unity, without skin, and hit download. Now once it downloads, just drag them in to our animation folder, or wherever you want to put it at, and we would just do the same thing. Grab them, grab the animation, the triangle, and just drag them in. Now over here we have to change this to humanoid, copy from other model, because we already had one, we already have a model, and the model I'm using is called universal character breathing idle, and I'm just gonna hit apply. So now I have this walking animation, and as soon as I scrub, let me move this down, and as soon as I scrub to the walking animation, you can see the player starts walking. You could always make this longer. All you would have to do is hit Control D when you click on your animation, and it will duplicate it for you. So now you can see he just continues to walk. Now when we go on to here's a quick little thing that I forgot to mention. If you see there's a little star right here, just hit Control S. That means your timeline hasn't been saved yet. So now if we go to our universal, or to our walking animation, and we go to animation, the tab, if we go down, we could add events to our animations. So an event is pretty much just some function or some code that will run, and it will trigger that event, so whatever you wrote in that code. So we're gonna add footsteps. So the way we could do that is we'll just scrub through our timeline to see when the player actually has his foot on the floor. So for example, right here he has it on the floor, but he didn't really step, so we could do it right here. You could see he stepped, and now we could add an event. Let's do another footstep. So if we go, and right about here he steps again, so we'll just put it about here. We'll add a new event, and then we'll just keep going, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So there's one footstep, two footsteps. So now what we'll do is we'll go to the function name, and we'll just put play footstep. This could be any name you want. It just has to match what's on your piece of code, your script. So now we'll click this one, and we'll put the same thing, play footstep, and now you see it is actually asking for an object. You could add a flow, integer, anything like that. This one is asking also for an object. So an object could be any code. So we're gonna go over here, we're gonna hit apply, we're gonna go on our player. If you get this warning, you could always just pretty much just move that around. It's just a little warning. The way I'm gonna do my codes are we're gonna break them down. So we're gonna have a bunch of little small codes. That way you guys don't get overwhelmed with all the code, and also it's a little cleaner, and I think it's a little better. So that's the way we're gonna do it, for at least for this tutorial. But if you guys do want to, you guys could make your code as long as you guys want. You guys could join everything into one script, whatever you guys want. But the way we're gonna do is we're gonna break these codes down. So I'm gonna add a script called Footsteps, and this script is just gonna be in charge of anything that has to do with my footsteps. So if I want to add particles, if I want to add audio like I'm gonna do right now, anything like that, it will be right here, and only for that. So now I'm just gonna delete all this because it's a habit already, and then we're gonna put serialized field because we want it to show in the inspector, and we also want it to be private, and we're just gonna put audio clips, and we're gonna make this an array. So if we put these little brackets, it just means it's gonna be an array, or sort of a list, but not a list, because there's actually something else that's called a list. So it's sort of a list. So just for now, just think of it as a list if you don't know what it is. Now we're just gonna name it Footsteps Audio Clips. A little long, but it's better to be descriptive. Now we're gonna make a private audio source, and this is what's gonna pretty much play our clip, our audio, our music, or our sound effect. Now we made it private because we're actually gonna get it in the wake function. So the way we could get something is just put audio source equals get component audio source. And the reason I just have it like this, get component, is because it's going to get it from the same game object. So if we go over here, this is our game object and we have an animator. We have our footsteps. We don't have an audio source yet, but we're going to add it. That way our code can grab this component right here. And we're going to check off play on awake. Now with that, we have this right here and we could add audio clips. We could subtract it, or we could just lock this. And with the asset that I downloaded, the classic footstep sound effects, I'm going to go to ground, or actually to floor. I'm just going to add every single one by dragging it in. Now we have 21 footsteps, and the reason I added so much is because we're going to randomize it. So now if we go back, we could make a void, or a function called void play footsteps. So this is the same name that we put on the animation. So I'll show you guys real quick. So if we go to our animation right here, we go to this one, we go to events, we go over here. This is the name, and I think I put footsteps, but it should be play footstep. See, so make sure this is exactly right. So if you want play footsteps, put that. If you want play footstep, whatever you want, but just make sure this is spelled exactly right. If not, it won't work. So now we're just gonna put audio source dot play one shot, and then we're gonna put footsteps audio clips, and then with the curly, or with the brackets, and we're gonna put 0. 0 means the first audio clip in the list. The second one would be 1, third one would be 2, and so on. Now we're also gonna put it in an if statement, and we're gonna check if audio source is not playing. So the way we could do that is we could either do audio source dot is playing equals false. So if it is not playing, or the way you also could do it is just putting an exclamation point in the front, and that means if audio source is playing equals false, do that. And if you just have this like that, it means true. If it's true, do that. So I'm just going to do that, have it is false. And then if you only have one line of code, you don't need to put curly brackets. So what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll see like if audio source something is playing, and then you will see the curly brackets, and then you will see some line of code right here. Now if you only have one line of code that goes underneath the if statement, or the if branch or whatever, you don't need to add those curly brackets. So this is pretty much it for this script. Now you would have to make sure it's on our player, and now when we hit play, and make sure it's on our timeline as well. So it is on our timeline. When we hit play, it should work. So now the footsteps should work. I do warn you guys, I don't know how loud it will be, so hopefully it's not too loud on your guys' ears. But as soon as he starts doing that walking animation, he will play those footsteps when he actually walks. So hopefully you guys were able to hear that. I wasn't able to hear it on my side, but I'm pretty sure it worked. So now we're gonna add some movement. So we're gonna add movement to this cutscene. Now the way we could do that is we're gonna add another animation track. We're gonna drag the player in again, and we're gonna hit this little record button. Right here you could also change to seconds, or to time code, or to frames. So whatever you want to work with. I'm gonna do 2 seconds, and after 2 seconds I want him to, well, maybe a little longer, let's do 2.5. I want him to actually start walking. So I'm going to hit this record button. I'm going to get the player and move him just a little bit on the X. And now I want him to start moving, or actually I'm going to move him a little bit right here, right before he starts walking. So if I move him a little bit, now he's going to start walking, and I want him to end up pretty much on the concrete slab. So I'll just move him to this concrete slab, maybe about right here, and then that should be it. Remember when you're not recording to end it, because you might do some changes that you don't like. So now if we go back, we scrub, and we see that he's actually moving now. So that's good. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add some movement, but to the camera now. So I'm going to add another animation track, and I'm going to add this camera, create animator on main camera, because it doesn't have one right now. So I'll create an animator, and now while this is doing the same thing as well, I'm going to hit record, and now I want it to start moving right about, well, actually I want that camera to actually be in front of him in the beginning. So if I move this C up, I'm gonna spin the camera around 180 degrees. Oh, 180. And where's my player? Oh, he's right here. So I want it to kind of be like that. So if I go over here to the director, now the camera is kind of facing him, and I could also just a little more back. So now the camera is facing him. That's what I want. And when he starts walking towards us, I want the camera kind of to zoom behind him or to go behind him. So I'm going to record from here, go to my main camera, move it on the X a little bit. And when he's walking, maybe right about here, I want the camera, well actually maybe towards the end, I want the camera to go to the other side of him and actually look at him. If we end recording and start scrubbing through our timeline, we will see that the camera is actually not looking at us at all. So record again, make sure the rotation's at 180. And now when we scrub, it wants to move. So what we're gonna do is right here, we're gonna record again, make sure it's at 180 and zeroed out on another axis, and we'll just keep doing it until we get this real quick. So now kind of see it rotates towards him. You guys could play around with it. So once it gets over here, all I want to do is add another recording real quick with this camera over here. Maybe over here, grab the camera, just rotate it to the left, go over here a little bit more, rotate it to, put it back to where it was, and then rotate it over here to the right. Now, if I scrub through one more time, see it scrub through, and that looks okay for me at least. And what else can we do? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some cars. That's another thing I forgot to pull up. I'm also gonna be using this vehicle poly pack by Astra Infinity. Hope I said it right. And it's just this little car pack. I'm just gonna add it for little details in the scene. So I'll just go to the prefabs that they have right here and add some cars. Now I did scale them up because they came pretty small. So if you're wondering why, if you download it and you're wondering why yours is smaller than mine, that is pretty much why. So now if I move this around, I'll move it in front of the police station. Maybe this is the car that he uses, that we're gonna use to get to the first mission or something. You guys are gonna have to help me out with this Grand Theft Auto story. Leave comments below to help me out. Now we're gonna add this weird looking minivan, and now we're gonna add that minivan, and we're gonna spin them around, and we're also gonna add, let's add this truck. Come up a little bit. It looks about good. They look about good. Now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna move the minivan in the director because I wanna mess with the minivan real quick. Now if I go to my timeline, hit save. I'm gonna add one last animation track, and we're gonna drag the minivan in. And with the minivan selected, right at this last second, what I want to do is I want to have the minivan look like it's pretty much just taking off real quick. So just zooming out of there. And that's about it. There's also an audio clip that I recorded right here in Audacity. I'll leave that audio clip in my website, so if you guys want to download it, but you guys could make your own audio clip. If you guys want to change the story up a bit or whatever, but it's pretty much just like an intro audio, and I'm going to drag that also into the audio source. But the way I would do that is I would create an audio source. So go to audio source. I'm going to call it intro audio source, and I'll just drag in this clip. You could do play on awake, but to have more like functionality, I guess you could say, just put none. So don't have no audio clip on this. Take away play on awake, and now on your timeline, go to audio track, put in your intro audio source, and now actually drag this into your timeline. Now you could position it anywhere you want. So let's say I want this audio to start playing, maybe let's say back here somewhere, maybe around here. So I'll just drag it to about right there. That's when I want it to play, and it will start playing for you. You could also increase this or to hold, or you could duplicate it so you could have the same audio play twice, stuff like that. After that, I think that's all I wanted to show you guys. We're actually going to create a track group, and we're just going to rename this track group to animator group, and we're going to drag in all our animator groups. So now we could just close this down and we'll have it a little more cleaner. So now if I go to our scene, let's maximize, or let's save it, let's maximize it, and let's hit play. So now we can see.
After 5 years of being locked up,
we should have audio.
I'm finally out. These cops took about everything from me, though. Now it's time to find out who ratted me out.
but we don't have that car popping out of nowhere, so we'll check that out and we'll end the video there. So let's check this out real quick. Go to our timeline, go down here real quick, scrub through the timeline. For some reason the car's not even there. Let's see. So minivan, and go to minivan, and let's see where the minivan's at. No, okay. So for some reason I didn't record the first keyframe. So the first keyframe we're gonna put maybe right here. Yeah, like right there. So the first keyframe we're just gonna go to the minivan and just drag them back to right about there. Now in recording, and now this should work.
After 5 years of being locked up, I'm finally out. These cops took about everything from me though. Now it's time to find out who ratted me out.
Now that was extremely fast. The fan just zoomed out of there. So to slow this down, what you could do is hit record. And now you can see you can't really edit this. So click it twice. It'll open up the animation tab. And now let's just grab this second keyframe and drag them out. Yeah, right there. Let's test that out. Yeah, it still seems like it's zooming out of there. Let's put it to 13 seconds. Stop recording. See if that worked.
After 5 years of being locked up, I'm finally out. These cops took about everything from me though.
Sorry about that. For some reason the recording ended, but if we hit play, let's just drag this over.
After 5 years of being locked up, I'm finally out.
Should
These
work.
cops took about everything from me though. Now it's time to find out who ratted me out.
As you can see, the van doesn't move as fast anymore. And yeah, that would probably pretty much be it. Now, I did notice that I forgot to mention how to randomize the footsteps. So I'm going to show you guys that real quick. So let's just open up the footsteps script. And once it opens up, all we're pretty much going to have to do is make a variable. And we can make that private. We'll make a variable called int. It'll be an int variable. And it'll be called random footstep. And right here in our plate footstep function, we'll just put random footstep equals random dot range, and we'll pass in 0 and the footsteps audio clips dot length. So it's gonna get a random number from 0 and whatever length the footsteps audio clips array is. So if you have only 2 footstep audio clips, it'll only do it from 0 to 2. If you have 5, it'll do 0 to 5, and so on. Now for this to work, all we have to do is copy random footstep, or just type it in right here where it says 0. And now every time this plays, it's going to give us a random footstep. So that should be it. And we could also see it, so we could debug it. We could also make it, we could just put serialized field. And that way we could see what number it has chosen, and then we could also see what audio clip it chose because of that number. So if we go to, I think it is on our player, and if we go down here, let me just collapse these, you can see our random footstep. So if I hit play, these values should change once
after 5 years of being
the
locked
walking
up,
commences
I'm
and the
finally out.
footstep
These
is
cops
played.
took about
It should
everything
change
from me though.
to a random value. So
Now
12
it's
and
time
then
to
5.
find out who
So
ratted
it
me out.
played 2 different footsteps. If we go over here, it played number 12, which would be, I think, element 11, or it might be 12, and then 5. So either 5 or 4. I forget how that works, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys want to see something that I did not show in this video, something that has to do with cutscenes, like adding subtitles, or I don't know, adding some particles, or something that has to do with cutscenes and that you want to add to your GTA-like cutscene, just let me know in the comments below, and I will make a separate video using most likely this cutscene to implement whatever you guys want. Other than that, for the future video, I was thinking of doing character movement. That way we have some movement and we could walk around our town. But if you guys have other ideas for future videos after the character movement, leave me a comment down below. It would really help me out, especially because I'm not really great at coming up with ideas. Right now I'm pretty much just playing all the Grand Theft Auto games that I got and just trying to recreate some of those. But if you guys have any ideas or want to see something right away, just let me know in the comments below. So if you guys learned something from this video, or if you guys enjoyed it, just hit that like button. Let me know that you liked it, that you enjoyed it. you learn something from it, helps me out, helps me keep motivated, helps this video be passed around, shared to people that also want to see videos like this. And also hit that subscribe button if you want to keep seeing GTA like video tutorials coming out soon, and that way you don't miss it. Hit that bell icon as well. And once again, thank you guys.